The manager of a pizza franchise hires a stuttering woman as a cleaner to exploit her services and make fun of her humility and way of speaking, until one day the general director looks at the cameras and what he discovers shocks everyone. Jacob, along with Jefferson, entered the pizzeria. Jacob with the posture of a conqueror. His impeccable suit and perfectly adjusted tie did not match the casual environment of the pizzeria. It was a Monday morning, and the employees were starting their day with the usual smile on their faces, but still sad about the departure of the previous manager, unaware of the drastic changes about to occur. Jacob walked behind Jefferson with firm steps to the meeting room, where all the employees were already gathered waiting for Jefferson to introduce the new manager. The door closed behind them with a dry click. Jacob sat on the chair at the edge of the table, looking at each of the employees, quickly glancing at each one. He could see the growing anxiety in everyone's eyes. "Good morning, everyone. As you know, I am opening my own business and I am leaving the company. I just came to introduce Jacob, the new manager, and to say goodbye to you," said Jefferson, who bid farewell to each employee with a handshake and a hug to some. Then before leaving through the door, he said, "So it's up to you, Jacob." Then Jacob began, his voice calm but laden with authority. "I am Jacob, the new manager of this branch of the pizza chain. I am here to implement some necessary changes to improve our efficiency and, of course, profit." The employees exchanged looks but remained silent, waiting to see what would happen next. Jacob opened a folder and began distributing some documents. "Starting today, there will be a new salary policy," he announced. "All of you will have your salaries reduced by 20%. This does not apply to me, of course, as my leadership role requires a level of responsibility and dedication that justifies my remuneration." The silence that followed was almost as if time had stopped. Maria, one of the longest-serving and most respected attendants, raised her hand. "Mr. Jacob, with all due respect, we are already working to the limit, reducing our salaries. How are we going to survive with this?" Jacob looked at her coldly. "I understand your concern, Maria, right? But the decision has been made. I need results, and that means cutting costs. If anyone is not satisfied, the door is open. We cannot afford to keep employees who are not aligned with my new vision." Maria lowered her hand, shivering. The murmurs began to fill the room as the employees discussed quietly among themselves. The atmosphere of friendship that used to exist there was being replaced by a feeling of betrayal and despair. Jacob watched it all with indifference and arrogance, firmly believing that his efficiency strategy would bring long-term success. In the following days, Jacob's decision began to show its consequences. Dedicated employees who had worked at the pizzeria for years started to resign en masse. The first to leave was Laura, a young waitress who always served customers with a warm smile and was well known in the community. She left a simple resignation letter, explaining that she could not support her family on the reduced salary. Alan, the pizzaiolo, was next to resign. He had started at the pizzeria as a delivery boy, slowly rising to become the main person responsible for the kitchen. Alan was known for his passion for making perfect pizzas, but the salary cut was the last straw for him. "Jacob, I love this job, but I can't continue anymore. I have a family to take care of, and this salary simply isn't enough. With my resume, I can find better jobs," he said, handing over his resignation letter. Even Clara, the dedicated cleaner who kept the pizzeria spotless, decided to leave. Her work, often invisible, was crucial to the smooth running of the pizzeria. With the salary cut, Clara simply could not cover her household expenses. "Sorry, Mr. Jacob, but I need a job that pays me enough to live. I can't stay here anymore," she said sadly. Jacob watched these departures with an impassive expression. To him, these resignations were just numbers on a spreadsheet, part of a necessary process to achieve the desired efficiency. He believed he could easily replace these employees with others who would accept to work for less pay. With so many employees leaving, those who remained were overworked and dissatisfied. The workload increased significantly, and morale was at an all-time low. Overtime became almost daily, and the smiles that used to greet customers began to disappear. The work environment, once cheerful and cooperative, was now filled with tension and frustration. The attendants now had to split their time between serving tables, cleaning and answering phones. while the few remaining cooks struggled to keep up with orders. The pizzeria, once a gathering place for families and friends, started to lose customers due to slow and disorganized service. Loyal customers noticed the difference and began looking for other dining options. One night, while cleaning tables, John, a young attendant, turned to his colleague Mark. "This is getting impossible. It's horrible working here. We're working twice as hard and getting paid less. I don't know how much longer I can take this," he vented. Mark nodded, sharing the same sentiment. "I know, John, but what can we do? It's hard to find another job, and that ridiculous Jacob doesn't seem to care about our situation. He only cares about his numbers." Their conversation was interrupted by an irritated shout from Jacob, who was watching everything from his office. "You two, stop chatting and get back to work." The days dragged on, and the situation only worsened. The workload was starting to affect the health and well-being of the remaining employees. The pizzeria, once a happy place, was turning into a toxic and oppressive environment. The situation at the pizzeria reached a new critical point when even the delivery driver and another attendant quit due to the low pay. Megan, the dedicated attendant who was doing her best to keep the pizzeria immaculate despite the lack of staff, couldn't take it anymore. Her reduced salary was simply not enough to cover her basic expenses. She left quietly, leaving behind a place she had always cared for deeply. Without Megan, the service and cleanliness of the pizzeria quickly became a problem. The floor, once sparkling under Clara's care and then just organized under Megan's, now was dirty and sticky with no one to take care of it. Tables accumulated dust and food scraps, and the bathroom started to emit an unpleasant smell. Customers noticed the change, and many began to avoid the pizzeria, commenting on the lack of hygiene with others who also stopped coming. Luke, the delivery driver, also decided he couldn't continue. He was responsible for delivering pizzas to customers, always with a smile on his face, but the salary cut meant he could barely afford the fuel for his bike. "Sorry, Jacob, but I can't do this anymore. The pay is too low," he said, handing over his keys. Without Luke, deliveries started to be late. Customers complained, and negative reviews began to pile up on social media. The pizzeria's reputation was in ruins, and Jacob began to realize that his cost-cutting strategy was backfiring. The atmosphere in the pizzeria became unbearable for the few remaining employees. The overload of work was visible in every tired face and every dragging step. John and Mark, the attendants, now had to take turns serving tables, answering phones, and occasionally helping in the kitchen and making deliveries. The situation was chaotic. "I can't believe we're doing the work of 5 people, grumbled John as he hurriedly cleaned a table. "Don't even mention it," replied Mark, carrying a tray full of dirty dishes to the kitchen. "Jacob is killing us with this pace, and customers are complaining more and more." The kitchen wasn't any better. Peter, the only remaining pizzaiolo, worked non-stop, sweating profusely as he tried to keep up with the orders. "Mark, I need more cheese here. And those doughs, where are they?" he shouted, trying to be heard over the noise of pots and general commotion. Mark ran to help, but couldn't hide the frustration in his voice. "We're doing our best, Peter. With such a reduced staff, there's no way to serve everyone on time." In the midst of all this confusion, Jacob walked with his usual high and mighty posture, observing everything from his glass-walled office. He rarely left it, except to give orders or demand results. For him, efficiency was a matter of numbers, and employees' feelings were irrelevant. Meanwhile, in the service area, Maria tried to console an irritated customer. "Sorry for the delay, sir. We are short-staffed, but we will do our best to serve your request quickly," she said, trying to stay calm. "This is unacceptable," the customer retorted, abruptly standing up. "I've waited too long. I'm going to eat somewhere else." Maria sighed, watching the customer leave. "Another lost customer. How much longer can we take this?" she asked John, who just shook his head in dismay. She found Peter in the kitchen and vented, "Peter, I can't take it anymore. I can't do my job properly with this salary. I can't even pay the bills." Peter, sweaty and exhausted, looked at her with empathy. "I understand, Maria. We're all in the same boat. But you know what Jacob will say if you quit, right?" Maria nodded, resigned. "Yes, he won't care, but I have no choice. Have no." That afternoon, Maria seriously considered handing her resignation letter to Jacob, but thought about her future and how hard it would be to find another job if she quit. She imagined Jacob saying, "If you think it's better that way, go ahead." So she kept her resignation letter until she could find another job. The situation at the pizzeria was becoming unsustainable, and Jacob felt the pressure increasing every day. Customer dissatisfaction, constant complaints, and accumulated dirt were starting to affect profits. Determined to take action, he called Harriet, the franchise's HR manager, for an urgent meeting in his office. Harriet entered, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. "Good morning, Mr. Jacob. How can I help?" Jacob wasted no time. "Harriet, we need new employees immediately, especially a new cleaner. The situation is out of control, but make it clear that the salary will be low." Harriet sighed, knowing this would not be easy. "I understand, Mr. Jacob, but with the salary we are offering, it will be difficult to find someone qualified." Jacob frowned, impatient. "That's not my concern. We need someone, and we need them now. Offer what we have available. Someone will accept." Harriet tried to argue. "Sir, I really believe we should reconsider the salaries. The quality of work and employee motivation are directly linked to what we pay and also to the reputation of our franchise." Jacob interrupted, his voice hard and definitive. "Harriet, I'm not asking for your opinion on policies. I'm telling you to hire someone, anyone, who will accept the salary we offer. We don't have time for philosophical discussions." Harriet nodded, resigned. "Understood, Mr. Jacob. I will do my best to find someone." Jacob leaned back in his chair, relieved for a moment. "Great. I want quick results, Harriet. We can't afford more delays." In the following days, Harriet worked tirelessly, reviewing resumes and scheduling interviews. The task was arduous, and the frustration was mounting. "I know he wants someone quickly, but with this salary it's almost impossible," she murmured to herself as she went through another stack of candidates. Finally, Harriet found a few candidates who might fill the position. She scheduled the interviews and informed Jacob. "Mr. Jacob, I've got some candidates for the cleaner position. They will come tomorrow for the interviews." Jacob just nodded, satisfied. "Very well, Harriet. Let's see if we can solve this once and for all." The next day, Jacob was impatient in the interview room, waiting for the candidates. Harriet entered with a poorly dressed woman, looking tired. "Mr. Jacob, this is Hannah, one of the candidates for the cleaner position." Jacob looked Hannah up and down, quickly assessing her. "Very well, sit down, Hannah, let's talk." He thought that, judging by her appearance, she would be easy to manipulate. Hannah sat timidly, her hands trembling in her lap. Jacob started the interview directly, his questions sounding more like orders. "Do you have experience as a cleaner?" Hannah, visibly nervous, tried to respond. Yes, I've worked in some places before." Jacob raised an eyebrow, impatient. "And why did you leave those jobs?" "I was laid off due to staff key cuts," she replied, her voice almost choking. Jacob noticed her stutter and quickly concluded that she would be easy to control, someone who wouldn't ask too many questions or make demands. Jacob sighed, irritated. "Do you have any problems, Hannah? It seems you can't speak properly. How do you expect to communicate with your colleagues?" Harriet intervened gently. "Mr. Jacob, Hannah is a stutterer. This does not interfere with her ability to work." Jacob ignored Harriet, focusing on Hannah. "And do you accept to work here for the salary we offer? It's a low salary, you know that, right?" he asked, testing her reaction. Hannah nodded slowly. Yes, I accept the salary." Jacob smiled, satisfied. "Very well. Let's see your willingness to work." He glanced at Harriet, who was silently following the interview. "Harriet, take Hannah to the service area and show her what needs to be done." Harriet nodded, somewhat relieved to have found someone who accepted the job, even in such difficult conditions. "Sure, Mr. Jacob. Come with me, Hannah." As they left the room, Jacob leaned back in his chair, feeling victorious. "She'll do the job," he murmured to himself, "and at the price we're willing to pay." Harriet guided Hannah around the pizzeria, explaining the tasks and schedules. "Hannah, I know the situation here isn't the best, but we really need your help. Don't worry about what Jacob thinks. Do your best, and maybe things will improve. Hannah smiled shyly. I'll do my best, Miss Harriet. That night Hannah returned home, a modest little house she shared with her friend Sophia. As she walked through the door, she was greeted with a warm hug. How did it go, Hannah? Did you get the job? Asked Sophia, anxious. Yes, I got it, replied Hannah with a tired smile. The salary is low and the pizzeria is far, but I need it. Sophia sighed, relieved but worried. Hannah, you know you can count on me for anything. If you need help with transportation, let me know. I don't want you to overburden yourself. Hannah nodded, grateful. Thank you, Sophia. You've always been an angel in my life. The next morning, Hannah woke up early, well before dawn. She took the first bus to the pizzeria, crossing the city as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the still, quiet streets. She arrived at the pizzeria punctually, dressed in her simple uniform and determined to do the best job possible. She started by cleaning the entrance, scrubbing the floor until it shone. She moved on to the tables, carefully cleaning each one, arranging the cutlery, and checking the details many would neglect. Peter, the pizzaiolo, watched her work in silence and was impressed by her dedication. Good morning, Hannah, he said while preparing the dough. You really got here early today. Good morning, Peter. I want to make sure everything is perfect for the D-Day. Peter smiled. With you here, I'm sure it will be. As the days passed, the staff began to appreciate Hannah's work more and more. The pizzeria, which had been filthy and disorganized, began to regain its shine. Customers noticed the difference, and although there were still problems with service and the kitchen, at least the environment was clean and welcoming. One afternoon, Maria, the attendant, approached Hannah as she cleaned the counter. Hannah, I just wanted to say that we all noticed the difference you're making here. Thank you for your hard work. Hannah was surprised and moved by the recognition. Thank you, Maria. I did do my best. Meanwhile, Jacob continued to watch everything from his office. Although he said nothing, it was impossible to ignore the transformation Hannah was bringing. He still underestimated her abilities, but couldn't deny that the pizzeria was beginning to stabilize thanks to her efforts. However, no one knew yet that Hannah had deep secrets and hidden talents that would soon change everything in unexpected ways. Every day, even before sunrise, Hannah was up, preparing for her long journey to the pizzeria. The commute was exhausting, but she never complained. Upon arriving, always punctually, she would start working immediately, transforming the pizzeria with her impeccable cleaning and meticulous organization. Peter, the pizzaiolo, watched with admiration as Hannah cleaned every corner of the establishment. You get here before everyone else and leave after everyone. I've never seen anyone work so hard, he commented, while rolling out pizza dough. Hannah smiled shyly. I will want to do a good job. I like to see the things clean and organized. The floor shone, the tables were always tidy, and the utensils impeccably clean. The kitchen, once a chaos of scattered ingredients and accumulated dirt, was now a model of organization. Customers began to notice the difference, commenting on the cleanliness and more pleasant atmosphere. This place is much better than before, said a regular customer to Maria. The cleanliness really makes a difference. Maria agreed, feeling relieved to see the customers returning. It's true, we have to thank Hannah for that. One day, Harriet entered the pizzeria and found Jacob in his office, analyzing sales reports. Mr. Jacob, I need to talk to you about Hannah, she said. Jacob looked at Harriet, curious. What about her? Since she started, the pizzeria has visibly improved. The cleanliness and organization are impeccable. I think we should recognize her effort. Jacob snorted, not wanting to admit he had underestimated Hannah. She is doing the job she was hired to do. I don't see the need for excessive praise, Harriet insisted. But sir, it's not just about doing the job. She has transformed this place. Customers are noticing and it's starting to reflect in the sales. Jacob hesitated but eventually conceded. All right, I'll make a note of recognition, but this doesn't change our salary policy. Meanwhile, Hannah's colleagues also noticed her dedication. Hannah, you are amazing, said John the attendant during a break. I've never seen anyone work so hard and still keep a smile on their face. Hannah blushed, shy. Thank you, John. I'd like to help and make a difference. Despite all the praise, Hannah remained humble and focused. She knew her journey had been long and difficult, but each day at the pizzeria was an opportunity to show her value and contribute meaningfully. As time passed, the pizzeria began to prosper again. Customers returned, positive comments increased, and team morale improved. And all this thanks to the tireless work of a woman who, despite all adversities, decided to make a difference. Despite her dedication and hard work, not all of Hannah's colleagues were as welcoming as Peter and Maria. Some, especially when feeling overwhelmed and frustrated with the situation at the pizzeria, began to mock her behind her back. It was easier for them to take out their frustration on someone who seemed more vulnerable. "That Hannah thinks she's better than us and can barely speak properly," said John mockingly while washing dishes. "Yeah, and did you see her clothes? Looks like she came straight from a thrift shop," replied Mark, laughing. "I guess that's why she accepted such a low salary. She must not have better options." The laughter echoed through the kitchen, but Hannah, who was passing through the corridor, heard everything. Her heart sank, but she continued her work, pretending not to have heard. She knew that responding to the taunts wouldn't help anything. Later, while cleaning tables, Maria approached and noticed Hannah's downcast expression. "Is everything all right, Hannah?" Hannah forced a smile and nodded. Yes, Maria. Everything is fine." Maria wasn't entirely convinced, but decided not to press further. "If you need anything, I'm here, okay?" "Thank you, Maria," replied Hannah, appreciating the gesture. At the end of the day, as Hannah prepared to leave, Peter called her into the kitchen. "Hannah, you're doing a great job. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise." Hannah looked at Peter, surprised. "Thank you, Peter. I just want to help." "I know," said Peter, smiling. "And you are helping a lot. Don't mind what others say." Hannah smiled shyly and left, feeling a little stronger. Even with the taunts, she knew she was making a difference and that some colleagues supported her. That was enough to keep going. As the days passed, the taunts continued, but Hannah remained firm. And gradually, even those who mocked her began to realize the importance of Hannah's work for the smooth running of the pizzeria. One day, Mark, who frequently made jokes about Hannah, had a moment of reflection. He saw her cleaning the kitchen after a particularly busy day and noticed how exhausted she was, but still working with dedication. "You know, John," he said thoughtfully, "I think we've been too hard on her. She really is making a difference here." John agreed, albeit reluctantly. "Yeah, maybe you're right. She works harder than all of us." Thus, gradually, the attitude of her colleagues began to change. The taunts decreased and the respect for Hannah's work increased. They started to see beyond her stutter and simple clothes, recognizing the strength and determination of a woman who, despite all difficulties, continued to fight and contribute significantly. Hannah lived in a small, humble house on the outskirts of the city. The place was simple but well kept, reflecting the dedication and care that she and her friend Sophia put into every detail. The walls, although worn with age, were always clean and adorned with small pictures and plants that brought a touch of life to the environment. One night, after a long day at the pizzeria, Hannah arrived home and was greeted by Sophia with a warm hug. "Welcome back, Hannah. How was your day?" Hannah smiled, exhausted but content. It was good, Sophia. I'm still getting used to it, but I'm doing my best." Sophia pulled Hannah into the small kitchen, where the aroma of freshly made soup filled the air. "Sit down, let's have dinner. You need to eat well after such a tiring day." As they ate, they talked about their lives, dreams, and challenges. Sophia had been a long-time friend of Hannah, knowing her since childhood. The two shared a history of struggles and triumphs, strengthening an unbreakable bond. "You're doing so well at the pizzeria, Hannah. I'm so proud of you," said Sophia with an encouraging smile. "Thank you, Sophia. You always believe in me, even when I did doubt myself," replied Hannah, touched. Sophia held Hannah's hand, offering comfort and support. "Always, Hannah. You are stronger than you think." After dinner, the two sat in the living room, talking and laughing. It was in these moments that Hannah found the strength to keep going, knowing she had someone who believed in her and stood by her side, no matter the difficulties. While Sophia talked about her day, Hannah reflected on everything that had happened at the pizzeria. She remembered Peter's kind words, Maria's support, and even the teasing from her colleagues. But what touched her most was the resilience she found within herself, inspired by the love and friendship she shared with Sophia. "You know, Sophia," said Hannah with a shy smile, "I think I'm finally finding my place. It's not easy, but I feel like I can make a difference." Sophia nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "And you are making a difference, Hannah. Keep going, and you'll see how everything will improve." The night went on, and the two friends prepared for bed. Hannah looked out the window, contemplating the distant city lights. Despite all the difficulties, she felt a spark of hope growing inside her. She knew that, with Sophia by her side and her own determination, she could face any challenge that came her way. And so, in her humble home, surrounded by the love of a true friend, Hannah found the strength to move forward, transforming not just the pizzeria, but her own life as well. The news of the pizzeria's decline and subsequent low profits reached the ears of Alexander, the CEO of the pizza chain. He was a shrewd and strict businessman, known for his ability to turn adverse situations into growth opportunities. Concerned about the drop in numbers even with the recent low profits, Alexander decided to visit the problematic unit personally to understand what was happening. The next morning, Alexander arrived at the pizzeria unannounced. Dressed in an elegant suit, he entered and immediately caught everyone's attention. Peter, who was in the kitchen, noticed the arrival of the boss and informed Maria. "Maria, it's Alexander. The CEO himself is here." Maria's eyes widened, feeling the tension in the air. "Goodness, what's he doing here? I'd better tell Jacob." While Maria headed to Jacob's office, Alexander observed the environment around him. The cleanliness was impeccable, but there was something more, something he couldn't immediately identify. John, who was at the counter, quickly approached. "Mr. Alexander, welcome. What brings you here today?" Alexander smiled formally. "I'm here to understand why the profits of this unit have dropped and haven't returned to normal. I want to see how things are functioning." Before he could respond, Jacob appeared, visibly nervous. "Mr. Alexander, it's a surprise to see you here. If I'd known you were coming, I'd have prepared something special." Alexander waved a hand, dismissing the formality. "No need, Jacob. I want to see the pizzeria exactly as it is day to day. Please, show me around." As Jacob guided Alexander through the pizzeria, introducing the employees and explaining the processes, Alexander paid attention to the details. When they passed through the kitchen, he noticed Hannah meticulously cleaning the countertops. Jacob mentioned her work briefly, but without much emphasis. "And this is Hannah, our cleaner. She keeps everything tidy here," said Jacob casually. Alexander observed Hannah for a moment. "Nice to meet you, Hannah. I see you're doing an excellent job." Hannah looked up, surprised and shy. Thank you, sir." Alexander continued his inspection, but a feeling that something was off accompanied him. He saw the tension in the employees' faces and realized that, despite the cleanliness and organization, the atmosphere was charged with anxiety. After the visit, Alexander gathered Jacob and Harriet in his improvised office at the pizzeria. "Jacob, Harriet, I want to know more about what's happening here. The numbers are down and haven't returned to our standard, and I need to understand why." Jacob tried to explain, blaming the previous management and the reduced team and necessary salary cuts. "We're facing challenges, sir. The cost reduction was necessary to keep the operation going." Alexander frowned. "I understand the need to cut costs, but not at the expense of team morale and service quality. I'll be monitoring this closely. Harriet, prepare a detailed report on the employees' situation and their working conditions." Harriet nodded, feeling a twinge of relief. "Yes, Mr. Alexander, I'll get on it immediately." As Alexander prepared to leave, he cast one last look at the pizzeria. The impression that there was something deeper wrong bothered him. He knew he would need to return and investigate further to discover the root of the problems. That night, as he mentally reviewed his visit, Alexander decided to install hidden cameras to monitor the true situation of the pizzeria. He needed to see beyond appearances and understand what was really happening, and this was the best way to ensure he got a clear and unbiased view. The next morning, before opening, Alexander arrived early at the pizzeria, accompanied by a trusted technician. I want the cameras installed discreetly, where they can capture everything that happens here, especially in the work and service areas, he instructed. The technician nodded, understanding the importance of the task. Understood, Mr. Alexander. We'll do it in a way that no one will notice. While the installation proceeded, Jacob had no idea what was happening. He was still at home, reviewing financial reports and trying to find a solution to the declining numbers. Harriet, on the other hand, was already at the pizzeria and noticed the presence of the technician. She was intrigued, but decided not to ask questions for the time being. After the installation was complete, Alexander thanked the technician and turned to Harriet. Harriet, I need you to keep this confidential. I want to observe the pizzeria without anyone knowing, to understand what is really happening here. Harriet agreed, understanding the gravity of the situation. Yes, Mr. Alexander, I'll trust in your strategy. With the cameras operational, Alexander returned to his central office where he had direct access to real-time recordings. Sitting in his chair, he began to closely observe the activities in the pizzeria. He soon noticed the exhausting routine of the employees, the silent effort of Hannah, and the way Jacob interacted with the team. One afternoon, while watching the recordings, Alexander saw something that caught his attention. Hannah was cleaning the kitchen, but beyond that, she was organizing the utensils and even helping the cooks with small tasks, always maintaining a humble and diligent attitude. In one of the recordings, Alexander noticed a particularly revealing incident. Peter and Maria were talking in the kitchen, unaware of the camera. Have you noticed how Hannah works non-stop? She does more than all of us combined, commented Peter. Yes, and all that with that ridiculous salary. It's unfair, replied Maria. But what can we do? Jacob doesn't seem to care. Peter and Maria's words echoed in Alexander's mind. He began to realize that the root of the problems at the pizzeria was not just financial but also moral. The environment was being corroded by Jacob's inadequate management and the lack of recognition for the employees' efforts. Another day, while watching, Alexander saw an interaction between Jacob and Hannah. Jacob, visibly irritated by something, was taking out his frustration on Hannah. You need to work faster. We can't waste time with superficial cleaning, he said with disdain. Hannah, though scared, remained calm. I'm doing my best, Mr. Jacob. I'll try to be faster. Hannah's patience and humility impressed Alexander. He began to realize that he had completely underestimated her value to the pizzeria. Her dedication was a stark contrast to Jacob's authoritarian attitude. As he continued to monitor the recordings, Alexander began to formulate a plan. He knew he would need to intervene significantly to change the pizzeria's trajectory, but above all, he wanted to understand more about Hannah, the woman who was quietly keeping the place running. With each recording, Alexander got closer to the truth. The installation of the cameras not only revealed the reality of the daily operations, but also highlighted the qualities and challenges of each employee. Alexander continued to monitor the hidden camera recordings, observing the pizzeria's routine and the employees' behaviors. He began to notice something peculiar about Hannah. It wasn't just her dedication to cleaning that stood out, but also her interaction with customers and her organizational skills. One afternoon, while reviewing the recordings, Alexander saw Hannah talking to a dissatisfied customer. She not only patiently listened to the complaints, but also offered practical solutions and ensured the customer left satisfied. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I'll make sure your next visit is perfect, she said, with a sincere smile. Impressed, Alexander began to pay more attention to Hannah's activities. He noticed that in her free moments, she would rearrange the tables, creating a more welcoming and efficient environment. Additionally, he saw that Hannah often assisted in designing promotional materials, demonstrating an unexpected marketing skill. Intrigued, Alexander decided to investigate further. He asked Harriet to gather all recent plans and proposals from the pizzeria. Harriet, I need you to bring me all the documents related to layout changes and marketing campaigns from the past few months, he instructed. When Harriet delivered the documents, Alexander was surprised to see that many of the plans were detailed and well thought out, clearly done by someone with talent and vision. As he reviewed the papers, he found notes and sketches signed with a simple H. He knew exactly who it was. The next day, Alexander returned to the pizzeria unannounced. He entered Jacob's office with a serious expression. "Jacob, I need to talk to you about these plans and proposals." Jacob, unaware of the true reason for the visit, tried to maintain his composure. "Of course, Mr. Alexander, what would you like to know?" Alexander placed the documents on the table. "These layout plans and marketing campaigns are excellent. Who developed them?" Jacob quickly looked at the papers and responded confidently. "I developed them, sir. I've been working hard to improve the pizzeria." Alexander frowned, already knowing the truth. "Jacob, don't lie to me. I know these plans are from Hannah. The notes are signed with an H." Jacob visibly became nervous but tried to maintain his stance. "Sir, I only supervised. Hannah may have contributed some ideas, but most of it was my work." Alexander was not convinced. "Jacob, I've seen the recordings. I've seen Hannah working tirelessly, organizing the pizzeria, attending to customers and creating promotional materials, things that are far beyond the scope of a cleaner's job. Don't try to take credit for her work." Jacob remained silent, unable to refute the evidence. Alexander stood up, his expression severe. "I'm going to speak to Hannah directly. I want to hear her story." As he headed to the work area, Alexander found Hannah cleaning a table. He approached her gently. "Hannah, may I speak with you for a moment?" Hannah looked up, surprised and nervous. Yes, Mr. Alexander." Alexander guided her to a more private table and sat down beside her. "Hannah, I've been observing your work and I'm impressed. I know you are responsible for the layout plans and marketing campaigns. Can you tell me more about this?" Hannah nodded, shy but encouraged by Alexander's gentle approach. I just wanted to help the pizzeria I improve. I saw some things that could be different and tried to make some changes. I like working towards improvements, so I thought I could contribute." Alexander smiled, admiring her. "You've done an excellent job, Hannah. I'm surprised by your skills. I'd like to know more about your ideas and how we can implement them more broadly, even in other franchise locations." Hannah felt a wave of emotion and gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. I'll do my best to help." As they talked, Alexander realized that Hannah was more than just a cleaner. She was a key asset for the pizzeria's future, someone with talent and vision who could bring significant changes. Alexander left the conversation with Hannah with a new understanding and a firm decision. He knew that the situation with Jacob could not continue. The integrity and future of the pizzeria were at stake, and it was time to act. Determined, he returned to Jacob's office where Jacob was sitting, visibly nervous. "Jacob, I need to speak with you again," said Alexander, entering the office and closing the door behind him. Jacob tried to stay calm, but Alexander's firm presence made him uneasy. "Of course, Mr. Alexander. What would you like to discuss?" Alexander stared at Jacob with a stern look. "I've reviewed all the documents and recordings. I clearly saw that Hannah is the true author of the layout plans and marketing campaigns, the cleaning and the remaining morale of this team. You tried to take credit for her work, and you've done nothing but pressure the employees. This is unacceptable." Jacob stammered, trying to explain. I just wanted to help the company. I thought it was best this way." Alexander interrupted, his voice firm. "It's not just about who did the work, Jacob. It's about honesty and integrity. You deceived everyone and tried to take advantage of someone else's effort and talent. This is something I cannot tolerate." Jacob lowered his head, feeling the weight of Alexander's words. "Mr. Alexander, I really thought I was doing what was best for the pizzeria." Alexander took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "What's best for the pizzeria is to value and recognize the talents we have, and you completely failed in that. Your conduct has been inappropriate and harmful." Jacob stood up, his voice now desperate. "Please, Mr. Alexander, give me a second chance. I can change, I can do better." Alexander shook his head. "It's not a matter of a second chance, Jacob. Your misconduct and deception cannot be ignored. I am terminating your employment, effective immediately. Please collect your belongings and leave the premises right now." Jacob remained silent for a moment, absorbing the news. Finally, with a sigh, he began to pack his things. "I understand, Mr. Alexander. I'll leave now." As Jacob left the office, the employees began to notice the commotion. Murmurs and curious looks spread through the pizzeria. Harriet, who was nearby, exchanged a worried glance with Maria. "Harriet, what's happening?" asked Maria. Harriet sighed. "It looks like Jacob has been fired. Alexander found out everything about his plans and mistreatment of the staff." Peter, who was listening to the conversation, couldn't hide a satisfied smile. It was only a matter of time. Jacob is a jerk. As Jacob left the pizzeria, Alexander gathered all the employees. "Everyone, I need to speak with you. As many of you know, there have been significant changes recently. I want to make it clear that from now on, we will focus on recognizing and valuing the talent and hard work of each one of you." The employees looked at each other, feeling a new wave of hope and motivation. Hannah, who was at the back of the room, could hardly believe what she was hearing. Alexander continued. "Hannah, please come here." Hannah, visibly nervous, walked to the front where Alexander was standing. Yes, Mr. Alexander." Alexander smiled, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Hannah, I want to thank you for your incredible work and dedication. You have brought positive changes and shown a talent that we all need to appreciate. From today, you will have an even more important role in our team." The applause from her colleagues echoed through the pizzeria, and Hannah felt tears of emotion rolling down her face. Maria, who was beside her, hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Hannah. You deserve this." After the meeting with the employees, Alexander decided it was time to learn more about Hannah. He had already witnessed her talent and dedication, but wanted to understand more about the person behind such effort. The next morning, he invited Hannah for a coffee in the pizzeria's office. "Hannah, I'd like to talk with you and learn more about your story. I'm sure there's much more to you than we know," said Alexander, smiling encouragingly. Hannah, still a bit shy, sat at the table. "Thank you, Mr. Alexander. I'd be happy to talk." Alexander started gently. "Hannah, tell me a bit about your life before you came to work at the pizzeria." Hannah took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice still hesitant but determined. I grew up in a poor family. My parents always worked hard to support us. I've always been a Saint Stutterer, and it brought many challenges." Alexander listened attentively, encouraging her to continue. "It must have been difficult, but it seems you've always found a way to move forward." "Yes," said Hannah, nodding. Despite the difficulties, I always worked hard in school. I was a good student and managed to graduate with a lot of effort. My parents were very proud of me." Alexander noticed the emotion in Hannah's voice when she mentioned her parents. "They must be a great support for you." Hannah smiled, but her eyes were filled with sadness. "Yes, they were, but everything changed when I was in a car accident. My parents died in the accident, and my stutter got much worse." Alexander felt a lump in his throat hearing this. "Hannah, I'm so sorry for your loss. It must have been an extremely difficult time for you." Hannah tried to hold back her tears. "Yes, it was. I had to fight hard to survive after that. Without my parents, I had to move to a more humble place and start working any job I could find." Alexander was impressed by Hannah's resilience. "And even so, you managed to develop remarkable skills. Your work with an entrepreneurial vision is incredible. Where did you learn this?" Hannah gave a shy smile. "I've always liked SS's seeing things from another angle. I studied on my own about business management, using online materials and seeking in information. I learned because I thought I could make a difference somewhere." Alexander remained silent for a moment, absorbing Hannah's story. Her intelligence and determination were evident, and he knew she had enormous potential. "Hannah, your story is inspiring. You've overcome so many obstacles and still managed to stand out. I'm very proud to have you on our team." Hannah looked at Alexander, surprised and emotional. "Thank you, Mr. Alexander. It means a lot to hear that." Alexander continued, determined to make a difference. "I want you to know that your work and skills are highly valued here. I'll ensure you have the opportunities you deserve to grow and develop." Hannah nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude and hope. "Thank you, Mr. Alexander. I'll do my best to contribute even more." The conversation with Hannah not only revealed her intelligence and life story, but also strengthened Alexander's determination to transform the pizzeria into a place where talents like hers were recognized and valued. Hannah grew up in a humble neighborhood where opportunities were scarce and life was a daily struggle. Her parents, tireless workers, always did their best to support the family and ensure she had a chance at a better future. From an early age, Hannah demonstrated an insatiable curiosity and a thirst for learning that set her apart from other children. In the small house where they lived, books were a rare luxury. But whenever they could, her parents brought home a used book, knowing that education was the key to change. "Study, my daughter," her mother would say, stroking her hair as she read by the dim light of an old lamp. "Education is what can take you out of here and give you a better life." Hannah took those words to heart. At school, she was known as the most dedicated student. Her teachers saw incredible potential in her, despite the difficulties. "Hannah, you are an exceptional student," praised the math teacher. "If you continue like this, you can go very far." However, life was not easy. Hannah's stutter made her a target for mockery and made social situations difficult. "Look at the stuttering girl," her classmates would tease, laughing as she tried to speak. But even in the face of adversity, she never let herself be discouraged. She found solace in her studies where her bright mind could express itself freely. As the years went by, Hannah excelled in all subjects. Her academic performance caught the school's attention, and she was awarded a scholarship to attend a better high school. It was a moment of great pride for her parents. "We are so proud of you, Hannah," her father said with tears in his eyes. "You are doing what we never could." In high school, the challenges continued. The workload was heavy, and Hannah still needed to help at home. Many nights, she stayed up late studying after a full day of household chores and part-time jobs. "You need to rest, my daughter," her mother insisted. "I worry about you." "I'm fine, Mum. I need to do this," Hannah would reply, determined not to disappoint her family. Finally, after much hard work and sacrifice, Hannah graduated with honors. She was the first in her family to finish high school, a monumental achievement for someone from her background. "We knew you could do it," her father said, holding the diploma proudly. "You are our greatest joy." However, joy was interrupted by an unexpected tragedy. Shortly after her graduation, Hannah and her parents were in a severe car accident. Her parents did not survive, and she was left with injuries that worsened her stutter. The devastating loss nearly the sucker. After the loss of her parents, Hannah's life, already marked by difficulties, worsened considerably. The house where she had grown up, full of memories and love, became a financial burden she could no longer sustain. Without her parents' income, the bills started piling up and her savings quickly dwindled. She made the painful decision to sell the house and move to a more modest place. "You can come live with me, Hannah," said Sophia, her longtime friend, who supported her through this difficult time. "It's not luxurious, but it's cheaper." Hannah, with a heavy heart, agreed. "I know, Sophia. I just wish things were different." The streets were narrow and full of potholes, and most of the houses were in poor condition. It was an old building with peeling walls and windows that didn't close properly, but it was what she could call home. "It's simple, but we can make it work," said Sophia, trying to be positive while helping Hannah unpack her few belongings. "We'll turn this place into a home for you." Hannah agreed, trying to keep hope alive. "You're right, Sophia, we'll make it." The first few months were extremely difficult. The nights were cold as the house's insulation was inadequate. Often food was scarce, and they had to save every penny. Hannah worked long hours in temporary jobs, doing anything she could to earn money. She washed dishes in restaurants, cleaned offices, and even sold handmade crafts in her few hours off. One night, after an exhausting day, Hannah and Sophia were sitting in the small kitchen sharing a simple meal. "Hannah, you need to take care of yourself too," said Sophia, worried about her friend's health. "You're working yourself to death." Hannah sighed, exhausted. I know, Sophia, but we can't give up. We need to keep fighting." Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Despite all the hardships, Hannah never lost hope. She continued to study, seizing any opportunity to learn more about financial management and critical thinking. "One day this will be worth it," she told herself in moments of despair. It was during this difficult period that Hannah found the opportunity to work at the pizzeria. The next day, after learning about her story, Alexander sat in his office reflecting on everything he had learned. He knew that Hannah's journey was just the beginning. There was much more to be done, and he was determined to support her every step of the way. The pizzeria, under his leadership and with Hannah's undeniable talent, was destined for a bright future. Alexander called Hannah in for a conversation, his eyes fixed on hers. "Hannah, I want to offer you something that could make a significant difference in your life. I've found a clinic that specializes in treating stuttering. I'd like to cover all the costs of your treatment there." Hannah's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? Mr. Alexander, I don't know what to say. This would be it's amazing." Alexander smiled, satisfied with her reaction. "But that's not all. I also want to promote you to the position of manager of this pizzeria branch. You've shown incredible skill and natural leadership. I believe you can do even more for us in this new role." Hannah felt a mix of emotions, surprise, gratitude, and deep joy. I accept. Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander. I'll do my best." Alexander extended his hand and shook hers. "I'm sure you'll do well. We'll start the preparations for your treatment immediately." In the following days, arrangements were made for Hannah to start treatment at the best clinic in the country. Sophia, her longtime friend, was by her side, offering unconditional support. "I'm so happy for you, Hannah. You deserve this more than anyone, more than..." Hannah smiled, moved. "Thank you, Sophia. I couldn't have done it without you by my side." As she prepared for the treatment, Hannah also began to take on her new responsibilities as branch manager. The transition was gradual, but she quickly demonstrated her competence. The employees who once saw her only as the dedicated cleaner now respected her as a leader. Peter, the pizzaiolo, was one of the first to express his support. "Hannah, you deserve every part of this promotion. I know you'll do a great job." "Thank you, Peter," said Hannah, now with more confidence. "But with everyone's help, I know we'll take the pizzeria to a new level." The treatment at the clinic began to show results. The stutter that had previously hindered Hannah's communication started to improve. She felt more confident and more able to express her ideas clearly. Each session was a step towards a new life, and she embraced every moment with gratitude and determination. Meanwhile, at the pizzeria, the changes led by Hannah began to bear fruit. The team was more motivated, customers noticed the improved service and product quality, and profits started to rise again. Alexander watched everything with pride, seeing that his decision had been the right one. In a team meeting, Hannah addressed the employees with a confident smile. "I want to thank you all for your support and dedication. Together, we are transforming this pizzeria into a better place for everyone. Keep up the great work." The applause and smiles from her colleagues were a testament to Hannah's positive impact. Her journey of overcoming obstacles, from the difficulties after losing her parents to securing treatment for her stutter and a leadership position, was an inspiration to everyone. Under Hannah's leadership, the pizzeria underwent an impressive transformation. The dedication and care she had shown as a cleaner were now applied on a much larger scale, and the results began to appear quickly. The next day, as soon as the pizzeria opened, Hannah was inspecting every detail. "Good morning, everyone. Let's make sure everything is perfect for our customers today," she said with a confident smile as she walked through the kitchen and service area. Peter, the pizzaiolo, felt motivated by Hannah's enthusiasm. "I'm ready for a busy day, Hannah. The new recipes you suggested are a hit." Hannah nodded, pleased. "That's great, Peter. Let's keep innovating and surprising our customers." Customers began to notice the change in the pizzeria. Positive comments spread, and soon the pizzeria was always full. "This is the best pizza in town," a regular customer commented to Maria. "You've really improved a lot." Maria smiled, proud. "All thanks to our new manager, Hannah. She's done an amazing job." The team's morale also improved significantly. The employees felt valued and motivated, knowing their opinions were heard and that they were part of something bigger. "Hannah, thank you for always listening to us and valuing our work," said John, the attendant. "It's a pleasure to work here." Hannah responded with humility. "Thank you for all your effort and dedication. We're a team, and that's what makes us strong." Alexander, observing the progress, was impressed. During a visit to the pizzeria, he called Hannah for a conversation. "I'm impressed with what you've done here, Hannah. The pizzeria is thriving in ways I never imagined." Hannah smiled, proud. "Thank you, Mr. Alexander. I believe that with the right team and dedication, we can achieve great things." As the pizzeria thrived, Hannah also stood out in the local community. She began organizing events to attract more customers and engage the community, such as themed nights and charity fundraisers. "Let's make this place a community hub," she suggested in a team meeting. Peter, always enthusiastic, supported the idea. "That's going to be amazing, Hannah. Count me in for anything." And so, the community events became a success, bringing even more visibility and customers to the pizzeria. "You've really transformed this place," said one of the community leaders at one of the events. "It's wonderful to see how you're contributing to our community." Hannah felt fulfilled. "Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of something so special." The pizzeria's profits soared, allowing for continuous improvements. New equipment was purchased, the environment was renovated, and the team received additional training to enhance their skills. "We're just getting started," said Hannah during a planning meeting. "Let's keep innovating and growing." Months passed, and under Hannah's leadership, the pizzeria continued to thrive. Alexander, always attentive to the progress, watched with satisfaction the transformation not only of the business, but also of Hannah's life. He knew she deserved even more for what she had done, and decided it was time to give back in a significant way. One day, Alexander asked Hannah to meet him in the morning, before the pizzeria opened. "Hannah, I need to discuss something important with you. Can you come to my office?" Hannah, a bit anxious but curious, agreed. "Of course, Mr. Alexander, I'll be there." When she arrived at Alexander's office, she was greeted with a warm smile. "Please sit down, Hannah. I have something special to show you." Hannah sat down, trying to hide her anxiety. "What is it, Mr. Alexander?" Alexander opened a folder and placed a document in front of her. "Hannah, your work and dedication have transformed our pizzeria. You've not only led the team admirably, but also become an inspiration for all of us. And for that, I want to give you something that I believe will make a big difference in your life." Hannah looked at the document, surprised. "Well, what is this?" Alexander smiled. "It's the deed to a house closer to the pizzeria, in a better neighborhood. I want you to have a place you can truly call home, where you don't have to worry about transportation and poor conditions." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Alexander, I don't know what to say. This is incredible. Thank you so much." Alexander stood up and walked around the desk, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You deserve it, Hannah. Your journey of overcoming and the way you've transformed our pizzeria are an example to all of us. This is just a small thank you for everything you've done." Hannah hugged Alexander, feeling a wave of emotion. "Thank you. This means so much to me. I promise to keep doing my best." On moving day, Sophia was by Hannah's side, helping her pack her things. "I can't believe this is happening," said Sophia with a radiant smile. "You deserve all of this, Hannah." "I'm still in shock," replied Hannah, laughing. "It feels like a dream." When they arrived at the new house, Hannah was amazed. It was a cozy home with a well-kept garden and a spacious interior. "This place is incredible," she said, moved. "I never thought I'd have something like this." Sophia hugged her friend. "You worked hard for this, Hannah, and now you can finally have the life you've always wanted." With the new house, Hannah invited Sophia to live with her and could focus even more on her work at the pizzeria, without the constant worry about housing. She decorated each room with care, turning the house into a real home. The nights, which had once been lonely and filled with uncertainty, were now spent in peace and comfort, with Sophia by her side. At the pizzeria, things continued to improve. Under Hannah's leadership, the business thrived, attracting more and more customers and becoming a landmark in the community. The employees, inspired by Hannah's story of overcoming obstacles, worked with more dedication and enthusiasm. In a team meeting, Alexander made a point to highlight Hannah's impact. "I want to thank everyone for the incredible work you've done, especially Hannah, whose leadership and determination have brought us this far. This success reflects the effort of each one of you." The applause echoed through the room, and Hannah, with an emotional smile, thanked everyone. "I couldn't have done this without each of you. We're a team, and together we can achieve anything. And so, with a new house and a renewed life, Hannah finally found the peace and stability she had long sought. Her journey, marked by challenges and triumphs, inspired everyone around her, showing that with determination and support, any dream can become a reality. The pizzeria thrived, and Hannah's life was a living example of resilience and triumph, made her give up on everything